Welcome, everyone. Have you guys ever wondered why you automatically reach for your phone first thing in the morning, or why certain routines seem impossible to break? Today, we're diving into a book that unveils the science behind these everyday habits. The book we're exploring today is The Power of Habit by Charles Duhigg. Duhigg is a Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist who has compiled fascinating research on how habits are formed and how they can be changed. This book is insightful for anyone interested in personal development, psychology, and understanding how behaviors are shaped and can be modified. It explores the science behind habits, how they are formed, how they can be changed, and their impact on our lives and societies. Duhigg explains the concept of the habit loop, which consists of a cue, routine, and reward. By understanding and manipulating these components, we can change our habits and transform our lives. Part 1. The Habits of Individuals. Chapter 1. The Habit Loop. Duhigg describes how habits are formed in the brain, particularly in the basal ganglia, which stores routine behaviors. He illustrates this with the story of Eugene Pauly, a man who lost his memory but could still form habits. Chapter 2. The Craving Brain. This chapter focuses on how cravings drive habits. Duhigg uses the example of Pepsodent toothpaste and how its marketers created a craving for the product by emphasizing the tingling sensation it produced. Chapter 3. The Golden Rule of Habit Change. Duhigg introduces the concept of changing habits by keeping the same cue and reward but altering the routine. He uses the example of NFL coach Tony Dungy, who transformed the Tampa Bay Buccaneers by focusing on changing players' habits. Part 2. The Habits of Successful Organizations. Chapter 4. Keystone Habits, or the Ballad of Paul O'Neill. Keystone habits are those that have a ripple effect, leading to the development of other positive habits. Duhigg highlights Paul O'Neill's transformation of Alcoa by focusing on worker safety. Chapter 5. Starbucks and the Habit of Success. This chapter examines how Starbucks trains its employees to build willpower and positive habits, using the example of an employee named Travis Leach. Chapter 6. The Power of a Crisis. Duhigg explains how crises can create opportunities for organizations to change habits. He cites the example of Rhode Island Hospital, which improved its safety practices after a series of errors. Chapter 7. How Target knows what you want before you do. This chapter explores how companies use data to predict and influence consumer habits. Duhigg discusses how Target used purchasing patterns to identify pregnant customers and market to them effectively. Part 3. The Habits of Societies. Chapter 8. Saddleback Church and the Montgomery Bus Boycott. Duhigg examines how social movements and organizations, like Saddleback Church and the Montgomery Bus Boycott, utilize social habits to drive collective action and change. Chapter 9. The Neurology of Free Will. This chapter explores the limits of habits and the role of free will. Duhigg discusses the case of Angie Bachman, who struggled with gambling addiction, and how understanding habit formation helped her regain control. Conclusion. Duhigg concludes by summarizing the key points and emphasizing that by understanding the habit loop, individuals and organizations can take control of their habits to achieve desired outcomes. Key takeaways. The habit loop. Understanding the cue, routine, and reward is essential to changing habits. Keystone habits. Focusing on key habits can lead to broader positive changes. Cravings drive habits. Identifying and leveraging cravings can help in habit formation. The power of crises. Crises can be catalysts for changing organizational habits. For data and habits. Companies can use data to predict and influence consumer habits. Social movements. Effective social movements rely on changing social habits. Free will and habits. Awareness and understanding of habits can help individuals exercise control over their behavior. Duhigg's book combines scientific research with real-world examples to illustrate how habits work and how they can be transformed, providing readers with practical strategies for personal and organizational change. The book is filled with real-life examples, from how Tony Dungy transformed the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to how Starbucks trains its employees to build willpower. These stories make the science behind habits both relatable and actionable. I found the section on keystone habits particularly interesting. These are small changes that can have a ripple effect on other areas of our lives. For example, starting an exercise routine can lead to better eating habits and improved productivity. If you're curious about how habits shape your life and how you can take control of them, I highly recommend giving this book a read. Thanks for listening.